Hello, I'm Julia Cordova. Thank you so much for subscribing to my YouTube channel and liking my videos. I really appreciate it. Happy holidays to you, or Merry Christmas if I don't talk to you again before Christmas, which I guess I won't unless there's like a Cordova Christmas special or something. I don't know. I'm making that up. Now it might have to happen. I don't know. Anyway, let's talk charts. Ready? All right. So let's start off by looking at ES or XPS weekly futures. And this past week, I was thinking that potentially we might have had a tiny false breakout, but the momentum continued, and it did start the week lower, but the momentum continued into this past week. And actually, not a huge amount of a wick there, especially for this high up, but also not a huge range, right? I mean, higher than the previous week, higher low, higher high, but not a huge range. So now we're above, just above actually, by about 6 points or so, the next pivot I have, which is at 3720.52 or so. Now, what happens if we just keep going higher and I don't have any lines higher? The answer to that from my own charts is absolutely nothing. If somebody asks me what something is above, so if I don't have a line drawn for something already, I don't go looking for lines midweek. You know why? Because I'm going to screw it up in some way. So I don't do that. Anyway, the key for bulls this week, if I was an ES bull, would be to maintain 3720. That is the key pivot. And below that, we're still not going to even look a little bit bearish until we're below this 3397 line. And then we can start talking about the other pivots. But this is key for this week, 3720. Can we do it? I don't know. Let's look at the daily. Well, first of all, I should talk about the divergence here. There is still some divergence here from here to here. We have additional higher weeks here. This is about even. I zoomed way the F in. I couldn't figure out anything. And the answer is I don't know. I mean, the divergence is still there for now, but it could go away on a breakout. And then I'll just wait until it's back below this purple line. Let's look at the daily. Okay, so I did actually draw on another line here when I was reviewing it before this video, and it's a dotted line, same slope. Why? Because I think that'll give me a clue. So no lines above here until, way up here. So it is possible that we continue this momentum up and we eventually hit this trend line, or from an RSI perspective, this next resistance up. But the values that I'm watching for this week, as someone who's sort of maybe waiting for Godot, but waiting for some sort of pullback, will be 3691 first, and if we can, and which also might coincide with this MA here. And if we can get past that, then I'll start to look for the star line again. Below the star line, I'll start to get a little like bearish. Yeah, so waiting on these pivots. First 3691 or 0.83 or so, and then next 3641. That would be Sunday night or Monday, and actually that would be a huge if it were either of those. This 3641, because that would be a big range. Okay, let's look at Nasdaq Weekly. Oh boy, higher this week again. Still maintaining this divergence here, but not bearish yet until below 12583.15. No lines above here, like none, zero, zippo, zilch. I could find one, but I choose not to. I'm just going to wait now until we get to something that looks a little more bearish. Let's look at the daily. And here we maintained this wedge. We broke out of the wedge, and then we had sort of, I don't know what that is. Like, that's like a regular candle. I don't know. There is some small wick on top, not as much as I would have liked. But then again, I don't believe in toppy candles necessarily looking toppy. So again, just waiting and looking at a pivot for Monday of 12694. If it can get below that, then we'll, let me see what that, then let's say on Tuesday or Wednesday-ish, below 12600. Now, if you look, I'm not going to show you on this chart, but if you look at the hourly, there is an open hourly gap. I'll have to talk about it on Twitter because I don't have the hourly chart available right now, but there is an open hourly chart from a couple weeks back. So open hourly gap from a couple weeks back. So that's what I'd be looking for, at least, if it were to get underneath this 12694 level. Okay, now let's look at gold. So gold and silver both, this is the gold weekly chart. Gold and silver both had a lot of upward momentum this past week, but you can see, I mean, my lines aren't perfectly aligned with this flaggy thing, but you can see we're still sort of within the confines of the flaggy thing. And we're still in the confine of the 20 MA. So as long as we're below that 20 MA, even though I know there's probably a lot of FOMO, especially with, folks who hadn't gotten into gold before, I'm still not going to feel it actually until we're above 1926 or so. And I mean, if you just look at the size of this flag, I actually, because I had expected it to go more down, I'm still not feeling FOMO. I will, though, if it gets, I felt a little bit when it broke out here, but like, if it gets above 1926 or so, I'm probably going to jump on board the train. If not, I'll continue to wait. We're still within the confines of that weekly flag. Let's look at silver. We actually had a perfect bounce, pretty much. I mean, very close. Perfect bounce off of this blue trend line last week. And for now, maintaining below that, again, within the confines of the flag. This one's a little more aligned for my channel lines. And so this week, 26.15 is the value I'm watching. And then if it gets above 26.96, that to me will be a breakout. So, I mean, actually it'll break out here. And then I think if it gets above here, that would confirm the breakout for me. So it wouldn't just be like a poke above and then, so those are the two pivots I'm watching. If it goes higher, it ended the week at 2603 or so. 2615 is just right there. And then 2696 would be what? Everybody on board. And that would, I think, we'll have to see, line up with this RSI resistance as well. So for me, that'd be like a very easy trade to jump on board there above 26.96. Okay, let's look at oil. So last week I had said that I was hoping for some sort of dip so I could add more. But instead I bought something called drip, which is an inverse of the XOP, I think it is. But it basically is like oil stocks or oil company stocks. 3x, and that actually did pretty well this past week. So, if we look at, and these are both weekly charts, this is oil futures, this is the an oil stocks ETF called XOP. You can see this past week, even though oil continued higher, oil stocks or oil company stocks in fact did not. So we had a little bit of a pullback. So it's interesting, a lot of people feel that the oil companies lead the commodity. I don't know necessarily whether or not that's true, but I was pretty lucky doing that. So we'll have to see what happens this next week. I still think that there's room for more of a pullback in these oil stocks, but potentially maybe it'll just turn around. We'll have to see. Oil now, let's see, looking for anything above it. I'm going to have to start drawing some trend line, guys. I thought it was going to come back here first to retest before I had to get serious about these lines. But yeah, I would expect some, I still would expect somewhat of a pullback in the commodity. And let's see if we can't come back and touch these MAs, especially if they're going to cross this next week. So that would be a really nice pullback of XOP to approximately 53.76 or so. That's what I'd be looking for. Otherwise, I'll just set my stop to break even and we'll be fine. Okay, let's look at coffee. great week for coffee, but did come back down and end the week mid-range. However, still above this resistance, which is 36.66. The only thing that bugs me about this is that we still do have a small open gap here from week to week. Very tiny, but it's there, about 10 cents or so. So it is potentially possible that we come back below this resistance again. But I don't know if that'll happen or not. And the reason I'm not like, well, it'll happen is because we did retest this resistance twice before we came back down and then finally broke out. So in situations like that, I don't necessarily expect it to come back down, but I do not know. So we'll have to see. If it's below 36.66, I'm going to be much more concerned than I would otherwise. And if it gets to this 35.10, I will absolutely, which is also, looks like, see if I extended this 20 MA. Yeah, it's also the 20 MA-ish for next week. So that's where I would add my third scale, which I still have not added. I still haven't. Otherwise, I would like to add it. I would like to watch the price action around 36.66 if we get it and see whether or not I should add it there. But for now, I'm just 2 scales in, waiting on the third scale, and hopefully this humongous head and shoulders pattern will play out. But again, not in a straight line necessarily. It might have some more consolidation. Let's look at natural gas. I am also long natural gas, not hugely right now, but I did have 1 scale going into the weekend. And we ended right on the breakout line for the weekly that we talked about last week. This week, even if, this week, the weekly pivot I'm watching is 2.61, so it can back test that and still look very bullish to me. And on a daily basis, we did end right above here. I mean, this actually, I kept the same line from here to here. Weekly and daily is the same. But yeah, so from this perspective, we've got some wiggle room down to 2.65. So, I mean, 2.61 is still pretty substantial from 2.7, but we'll see what happens. 1 scale long going in. This is the hourly chart, and you can see, for the most part, we've had some momentum up and then just some consolidation. So it's getting ready to move some direction on the daily. We just don't know which way yet. And thinking that would be bullish because of this flag here, and I'm just going to make this a little small, and here also on the daily. But this flag is getting a little extended. It's going to have to make a decision very soon. Okay, well, that's it. Make myself big. Okay. Thank you for subscribing to my YouTube channel and liking my videos. I really appreciate it. I hope you have a wonderful week and wonderful holidays and Merry Christmas. Okay, bye.